Despite what you may be hearing, there is no housing market crash coming to the United States in 2024 or 2025. Now, certain markets might experience a housing market crash, especially the markets that have seen a drastic growth in inventory over this past year, but there is no crash coming throughout the entire housing market like we saw in 2007, 2008. In this video, we're going to take a look at an interview between somebody who runs a newsletter that predicted the 2007, 2008 housing market crash to see what he's watching, to see what he thinks of the current housing market, and give you some actionable data that you can look at when making your home purchase or home sale decision here in 2024 or 2025. Before we get into it, my name is Liam O'Reilly. I'm a realtor in Vermont with Jerry Riley Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs, whether it's in Vermont or anywhere else in the country, reach out to me directly. I would be happy to help you. And let's get into the article. So here, out of Fast Company, housing analyst who predicted the 2008 home price crash weighs in on the current market. Bill McBride, who runs a newsletter talking about housing and talking about the U.S. economy, and let's see exactly what he predicted in 2008. Have it highlighted in red. Some people thought I was crazy when I argued that house prices would fall 40% plus in some areas, but that is what happened. I also called the bottom of the economy in early 2009 and house prices in 2012. So the bottom of house prices in 2012. So this is somebody who has correctly predicted recent housing market crashes, weighing in on the current state of the housing market. And he says something here that we've been discussing on this channel for quite some time. He says McBride has maintained for the past few years that this housing cycle will ultimately resemble something closer to 1978 and 1982, a time of overheated house price growth that saw spiked interest rates, strained affordability, crashing existing home sales volume, yet no national home price crash, right? We're talking about the national US housing market. There is not going to be a national home price crash, although some markets have a much higher risk than others right now. And when you take a look at exactly what Bill is looking at when making his decisions and about the housing market, what he's talking about is the month supply of inventory across the market, right? The month supply of inventory is the ratio between home buyers and home sellers out there. How long, if no new listings hit the market, how long would it take the current home buyers to purchase all the properties on the market? Now, he says here, as a rule of thumb, house prices decline with more than 6 months supply of inventory. Although in 2022, we saw national price declines with under 3 months supply of inventory. And he goes into why he thinks that was back in 2022. But then he talks about what's going on now. Month supply, as reported by the National Association of Realtors, has been rising steadily. And NAR reported month supply of 3.7 in May. That doesn't mean national price declines, but it suggests growth will slow significantly later this year. Now, what Bill is saying here is that the month supply is going to continue to increase, which will put downward pressure on the housing market, but not so much pressure like we saw in 2007 and 2008, where home prices are going to crash. He talks about the 2008 housing market crash. And he says here, in 2004, I was talking with a young woman at my gym, and she told me she just bought a $400,000 condo with no money down. I knew how much she made, about $40,000 per year, and the numbers seemed crazy. She told me that she had a 1% teaser mortgage for those first 2 years. Now, back in 2006, 2007, 2008, a lot of those teaser rates came due, right? This is shown in The Big Short, where many people could no longer afford to pay the mortgage that they have after their teaser rate expired and their mortgage rate jumped up to around 6-7% for the home that they had purchased. Nowadays, most people, most homeowners out there have a mortgage under 6%. I think it's around 80% of homeowners have a mortgage under 6%. Most buyers don't have teaser rate mortgages. Most homeowners can afford to make their payments. So we don't have a wave of distressed sellers like we had back in 2007 and 2008. So inventory, a drastic increase in inventory is unlikely throughout the housing market. So if home prices are going to decline, it's because buyers are coming away from the market because there are less buyers than there were this time last year. And we're seeing that in the data. When we take a look at Redfin's data here, we see that where are the month supply? month supply sit at about 3.6 months right here, 3.6 months this year. And we can see it is starting to tick up. It dipped slightly over the summer, but month supply is starting to tick back up. And we see that with their Redfin home buyer demand index as well. Their demand index is down 12% year over year. That combined with higher listings, more active inventory, we see here active homes for sale up 17% year over year. Although that number is declining, it does seem like we've reached the peak of active homes on the market. So expect less inventory as we roll into the winter, as we roll into this election season. Less sellers are going to be eager to list their homes, which means that this month's supply likely won't get shot out of proportion. However, if we do see interest rates remain higher than expected, if things remain unaffordable for home buyers out there like they are today, we could see month supply start to tick up. And like he said here, the rule of thumb is when month supply gets over 6. That's the magic number that we're looking at. So if you're in your local market and you see that the month supply of inventory is over 6 months, then you know that you are in the danger zone for your market, right? When we take a look at other markets around here, we see that the housing market is behaving very differently from one end of the country to another. We see here in the Northeast and a lot of the Northwest as well, inventory is low. It's still well below 2019 levels. That's what this map is showing. The blue to green circles that you're seeing are counties in the United States where inventory is over 2019 levels. And that's alarming because demand is below 2019 levels. We don't have as many home buyers today than we had in 2019. So when inventory is higher than 2019 levels, I would assume, I don't know for sure, but I believe month supply in these markets could be over 6, could be over 6 months supply. Now, when we take a look at the Northeast and part of the West Coast, like LA, we see that inventory is still drastically below 2019 levels, meaning that there isn't much inventory on the market. There aren't many homes available to purchase. So when there aren't many homes available to purchase, that means the only thing that's going to impact home prices are either more inventory hitting the market, right, from distressed sellers, which we already talked about, likely isn't going to happen, or buyers who can't afford to purchase their property decide to hop out of the housing market, decide not to purchase homes, and decide to wait. If that happens, we could see the month supply of inventory start to increase. And again, if it hits over that 6-month number, that's when you know home prices are likely start to come down nationally. Right now, we're still below 4 months. Between 4 and 6 months is considered a neutral market. Doesn't benefit buyers, doesn't benefit sellers. It's more of a neutral market. Granted, things are much different than they have been the past few years, right? If you've been in the housing market since 2020, you probably are feeling like right now is a buyer's market as opposed to a seller's market. And I would argue that throughout most of the country, this is more of a neutral market. We're trending towards a balanced market between home buyers and home sellers, which would be at that 4 month supply of inventory. And when we take a look at what's going on, according to Redfin, it reflects a changing market. We see that 36% of pending sales were under contract within 2 weeks, which is the lowest level in the past 4 years. We see that homes sold in a median of 35 days, which is the highest level in the past 4 years. And 29%, only 29% of homes sold for over final list price. Again, the lowest level in the past 4 years, according to Redfin. 6.8% of listings had price drops. Again, we're really high. We're really high on this chart. We're slightly above 2022 levels where interest rates were starting to rise. Remember last year in 2023, in the fall of last year, mortgage rates hit 8%, and we still didn't have the amount of price drops that we do today. So it is a changing market. Things are shifting more towards a balanced market, more in the buyer's favor. And maybe in some of these markets that have an extreme amount of inventory, things are shifting from a balanced market to a buyer's market. But just because things are changing, just because we're coming out of a seller's market, does not mean that home prices will crash. There's a lot of videos right now and a lot of people talking about how the housing market is doomed, how home prices are bound to drop by 40%, 50%. We just don't have the market conditions to cause that kind of drop, to cause a drop of that magnitude. Um, if we were to see things change, if we were to see the housing market shift, if we were to see home buyers start to disappear, which I think is unlikely as we're at the peak of the rate hike cycle and we're starting to decline when the Federal Reserve officially cuts rates later this month, as they're expected to, things are going to continue to drop from there, most likely, which should bring more buyers into the housing market. That's what I see in the future is eventually the month supply of inventory will continue to rise. Things will continue to shift into buyers' favor until mortgage rates get down to mid fives, maybe low fives, which will bring a bunch of buyers back into the housing market and cause things to heat up. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think. I love reading your comments in the comment section. I learned a lot from you folks, and I'll see you in the next video.